What is going on, ADPI Nation? I am your host and benevolent overlord, Kevin Brenner, and today we have an inspirational guest. I've interviewed a lot of people. I mean, if you've been listening to this podcast, one of the many thousands faithful listening to this podcast, you know that we're already over 300 episodes, and I don't think I've interviewed someone like today, like Aaron today, because I mean, just his story and the things that he's been able to overcome, and not only just overcome, but honestly thrive in multiple different ways, forms, fashions, businesses, everything. And we're going to talk about his story and where he's at and what he's doing. And then, oh, by the way, Aaron's also a real estate investor. So let me do a brief intro on Aaron right now so you guys can get some context for what you're about to hear. So Aaron is a retired Army EOD team leader who suffered, quite a devastating injury, if I'm being honest, back in 2011. And since that, and since then recovering a bout of meningitis in 2015, he's become a mountaineer, a whitewater kayaker, a marathoner, an ultra runner, a speaker, a chocolatier, a real estate investor, and a professional podcaster. He's done all of that despite being completely blind and completely deaf. Aaron, first of all, let me say this. Thank you so much for your service and your sacrifice to this country from one veteran to another. Man, you've put it on the line, and you have absolutely taken what the cards have given you and thrived. And I'm proud of you, and I know every other listener to this podcast is proud of you. So thank you, brother.
Well, thanks for having me on, Kevin. And yeah, the first guest you've ever had on the show that may not even respond to your questions.
There you go. And if you do, then I just know that I just gotta say it a little louder. That's all. But you got me. But Aaron,
got a blind deaf guy coming on the show. You're brave. You're a brave man.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge for me, but far more a challenge for you. Ultimately, the fact that you're able to do everything you're doing right now is just incredible. So I want to take it back to pre-injury. Let's talk about your military career, and then let's talk about the big change that happened and how you came over that. And I really would love to focus on your mindset as you were recovering from this injury. But let's start way back. Let's talk about how you got into the military and all of that.
Well, if you can believe it, I was the all-American slacker. I had absolutely no ambition. I was lived a pretty comfortable Midwestern life and growing up in Northeast Ohio. And I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I absolutely knew that I'd be rich and famous and have all the things I ever wanted. I just didn't ever want to work for it. I didn't correlate the two until I got to college, and everybody who had the strong work ethic knew how to, hustle, just passed me by really fast. So after wasting too much tuition on bare money, I was looking for, an answer. I was very embarrassed. I disappointed my parents and disappointed I looked awful in front of my peers, and I was ashamed. So I needed to get on a course. I needed to get those internal values and needed to get the tuition money back, and that's when I looked to the military. I was going to become lean and mean and hard-working machine, and then of course you get the GI Bill. So the plan was, of course, 4 years out, and at the time I was going to take that GI Bill and go to culinary school because I love to cook. I've been cooking since I could reach over the countertop, and my whole family is a very creative family, very artistic family. So my artistic gene drew me into the kitchen. I love doing it because it's that kind of art that you can eat and see and smell and touch and feel and all that, and I love that part. But I joined the Navy to become, a Navy cook and get that OJT along the way, to earning my GI Bill, doing the 4 years, and then going to culinary school. Of course, 8 years later, I'm still in the Navy and stationed in Italy, cooking for the commander of the Sixth Fleet. It's three-star admiral and his top brass, and of course, during the day after hanging up my uniform, I go become an Italian and enjoy the Mediterranean life. Hardship duty, it definitely was not.
Yeah, hardship duty, absolutely. I just came back from Italy, and man, I don't know, you being a cook over in Italy, I I was there for 10 days, and I don't think I had one vegetable. I don't know what you must have been putting vegetables in the admiral's stuff somewhere.
Where were you, Venice?
We northern Italy, yeah. So I was
Northern,
in Florence and Bologna and Milan,
yeah.
but
It was
delicious
funny,
food.
and just a few years ago, when my this was 6 years now, 5, 6. I took my wife to Italy because I'd been dying to go back since I'd left, and of course, this time I'm blind and virtually deaf, but I really wanted to show off my Italian skills. We went to Florence, and everywhere I went, to the hotel clerks, the cab drivers, the waiters, I would speak in Italian, and surprisingly enough, they respond back to me in Italian. But I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I'm deaf. So you'll have to tell my wife. And they'd speak to her in Italian. And no, I'm sorry. She doesn't speak Italian. You'll have to tell her in English. She'll tell me in English what you just said. And then I can respond back to you in Italian. And then there's silence as I can feel them both just staring at me like I'm an idiot. And then they just start speaking in English because everybody speaks English there. So it was just funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd gotten over the few years. Yeah, I was in the Navy. I'd gotten that those internal, the selfish uh, skills, the traits that I was looking for, core values, and honor, courage, commitment, hard work, of course. In fact, I'd really taken to the Navy and becoming a petty officer. I was advanced ahead of my peers, and I was given leadership responsibilities very far earlier than I felt I was ready. But the Navy, decided I was ready, and then I had to fill those shoes. And there was something about, I don't know, something wasn't clicking still. That yeah, I would win, right? You'd hit a certain threshold or a finish line. It's okay. I like it here, and but life is all about change, and I would be disappointed, or at the very least apprehensive about the next pivot point, the next change, that next promotion, next responsibility, the next PCS. And then I would get there, I would accomplish, I want to do my best.
Mm-hmm.
And then I mean the admiral's mess. These are cooks who, these are chefs who are coming or going from other billets like Camp David or the White House. And I'd had my first duty station was Naples, Italy, and I'd gone to the uh, they did actually put me in the barracks night watch, because they didn't tell me the Navy thought of cooks as like hotel restaurant management, and we don't cook on shore duty.
Oh, really? Is that how it's set up? I never knew that.
Yeah, well, I think they changed it around now, but at the time, that yeah, it was we ran the barracks on shore in our shore rotations, and then on sea rotations, that's when we cook on board the ships.
Mm-hmm.
But cooks on shore, I was a night clerk, and then I was the maintenance guy. And that's when I learned Italian from all the Napolitan, public works roughnecks, the plumbers and the
Mm-hmm.
electricians. So, of course, I'm walking around places like Sicily and in Florence, speaking this kind of ghetto Napolitan. People looked at me so funny. But anyways, I, I'd jumped in from the barracks to cooking for the admiral, and I just had to fill these shoes. But then I would go on to another duty station. I'd get promoted to this or that, and um, I would get comfortable and then uncomfortable. But what I found was uh, I really loved the service,
Hmm.
and I really found stuff outside. It was the best experience I had was outside my own internal, those selfish goals, selfish skills, and core values, or the external ones, the selfless service, the commitment to duty and the military, and the troops, the sailors all around me. If I could add to their day and add to their career, and if I could add value into their lives, then mine just became better, and I was
Yeah.
happier about it.
Yeah, you,
So
you mentioned something there, Aaron, that I think a lot of people who still serve, and I still feel that way. I've carried forward every one of the core values. So every core value from the Air Force is wrapped up into my own personal core values that I write and revise quarterly. Because as an entrepreneur and a civilian, it's very easy when you get caught in the rat race to lose sight of those core values. But because we are veterans, we kind of have a leg up on everyone else because it was literally ingrained into us in basic training. And for you, serving in two different services, right? The Navy and then the Army, which we're going to get into next because I got to learn, I got to figure out how you went from a Navy cook to Army EOD. So that sounds like an interesting story that we're going to transition into next. But ultimately, those core values, they help us in everything that we do in life with our families, in our businesses, in our entrepreneurship ventures, in all of life. But that thing that you highlighted so adeptly was the if you can add value to someone else's life, it is going to make your life ultimately better. And that's if you can take that into entrepreneurship or real estate or whatever business you're working on, that's all you want to do. All you got to do is add value. How can you add value and make an impact? And Aaron, based on what you're telling me, man, you were making a tremendous impact. I mean, really leaning into Italy and learning about it and the culture and learning the language and the cooking and helping. It's incredible. But I got to know, man, how in the heck did you turn into a bomb guy from a cook?
well, I tell people I got my first confirmed kill with a Monte Cristo sandwich, and then I decided to start saving lives instead. But before we move into that, I would really want, like, the point you made was that you revise and update and review your core values, and I love that because our values, like the military, honor, courage, commitment, the alphabet soup sandwich that the Army has for leadership, uh, and all that is, those are ingrained. They're spoon fed to us. They're drilled into us, and they're pretty rigid. But for our own personal values, they change. They change over time. We grow, we learn, we adapt, and our core values, what we hold most important in our lives, change along the way also. So I'd gotten those internal core values, and I started looking for bigger, better values and a way to direct my life. That compass, the
Hmm.
the, the true north. Now, so I'd gotten to this point where the Navy had taken me as far as I could go. I which was about 2004, 2005. And, I joined in a time of peace, 1999. But before I left Italy, we were in two wars. We were in two major operations in two different, close, but two different locations in the world. But I was on board this flagship watching the wars play out, these operations play out on the television, like everybody back home. I mean, yes, everybody's job is important and just important as mine, but my abilities, my skills, my talents, creativity, all of that, I felt were being underserved, and I could actually serve the Navy, the military, the mission better in another capacity. So I first volunteered to deploy to Afghanistan as a cook, as the closest I could get. And while I was there running an Army defect on board, on a PRT fob
Mhm.
Farah, that's when I met some EOD techs. And I just learned everything about this incredible job. These first responders on the battlefield, the tight knit brotherhood, the technical aspect of the job, how incredible. Incredibly, these people, how these people, these men and women who run into danger when everybody else is running away, and they diffuse, dispose of everything that goes boom, from bullets to nuclear weapons, biological, chemical, everything, weapons of mass destruction. And I just, I absolutely knew that that's what I was, that was where my path was leading. So I, you I uh, put in a request with the Navy to go from cook to Navy EOD, and they promptly denied the request. I
Hmm.
guess they like my cooking too much.
Yeah, maybe.
That's when I started making Monte Cristos.
Yeah,
But
there you go.
the my rate and rank were undermanned,
Sure.
and they weren't taking cooks into the EOD program. Everything's can be wavered. Nobody wants to tell you. But when my deployment was my contract was actually coming to an end, and it was time to either reenlist or get out. And since I knew that I was destined for EOD, I just I, I hung up my uniform and I went over to the Army recruiter and just handed him my service record and said I want to go EOD, and they welcomed me in.
Wow. So it was just like that. So it wasn't like a while you were in the service you did like a, I don't know, blue to green program or something like that. It was you got out and then just went over and said this, because sometimes in my experience with recruiters, sometimes they say, "Oh yeah, I know, we'll definitely get you this," but then you took a big risk there. They could have said, "Yeah, we're definitely gonna get you this," and then someone up the chain of command could have said, "Man, Aaron's been cooking for five
No, it
years."
wasn't. It wasn't nearly as easy as I tell it there, but no. I actually got out for about 6, 7 months. Moved to New York City. Started a civilian job with a friend teaching computer applications to the corporate setting, Citigroup, and stuff like that. And it was miserable. And this was right during. This was like 2007,
Hmm.
2008. Yeah, and um, I uh, I had gotten into a huge flip, project. It was my first real estate investment.
In New
Um,
York City.
no, 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 no. My last duty station was Newport, Rhode Island, and that's where I
Oh, okay.
deployed to Afghanistan out of. But while I was in Newport, you know, I, they gave this E5 with practically no savings, nearly $500,000 worth of debt to do this flip, and it turned out disastrously. No,
Hmm.
it was so bad. I took such a beating on that thing, and I only finished paying off some of the revolving credit uh, just a few years back, maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, because I had a Home Depot credit card for $80,000. I had, I mean, it was a mess, and I was standing right on top of that bubble when it burst, and I'd just gotten out, I was I was separating from the Navy at the same time, which not wise. So I moved to New York. I got a job that paid well, but I absolutely hated. And I still had, that focus that I wanted to be an EOD technician. So when I was fed up with New York and being claustrophobic and teaching working something I didn't really want to do, I went over to the Army recruiter. I said, please, I want to go EOD. And they just looked at my service record and said, absolutely, come on.
Wow. So just like that, yeah. So let's fast forward a little bit here, because so time framing wise, this is 2007, 2008. You go into the Army. You're obviously there's a pretty massive training pipeline. EOD is an incredibly difficult training pipeline across all services, whether you're Air Force, Army, or Navy. Um, and you got to go through that, and then you're downrange, right? Is this about the time in 2011, or were there other deployments before that, or
I
what is that
deployed
timeline?
once to Iraq. I was stationed at Fort Drum, and I
Hmm.
deployed almost immediately after leaving EOD school to Iraq. I was at the Sexy Cell, the counter exploitation cell in Liberty,
Hmm.
and we kind of did the triage for all the evidence that came off the battlefield. So that was my first job as an EOD technician overseas. Then I deployed in 2011, and I've been in the Army EOD for a couple of years now, and became a team leader, and that's when really put all these skills to work, and it was really necessary because we were in Sia Choi, a small village in the Zaray district in the Kandahar province. It's like the heart of darkness. It's
Hmm.
the birthplace of the Taliban, and we were working every day, all the time, and it was just pressure plate IEDs buried everywhere.
Jeez.
So yeah, we were just running, those oil jugs with homemade explosives all the time, and made it 8 months without incident within my team. I'd gotten to go back on my 2 weeks of R&R. Yeah, witness my son, my firstborn, turn one, and got to see the whole family together for Thanksgiving. It was a great last page in the photo
Hmm.
album.
Yeah.
And then I got back. My team grabbed me in our EOD Jerv armored truck, threw the luggage in the back, and we jumped into a supply convoy, head back out towards Sia Choi and my RAO. And along the way, the convoy commander called back and uh, said there's something up ahead on the road, and we need you to check it out. So they set up a security cordon. We sent out the robot. Robot found what we're always finding, and it took care of the pressure plate. So I jumped out to grab some evidence and get that uh, jug out of the hard pack earth that the robot couldn't get out, about 20 meters or so from the original device. There was a secondary device that hadn't been detected, and that's what sent me into the air. Landed on my knees and elbows. Lights went out. I thought for a second that my helmet had just gotten pushed over my face, but first thing was wiggle the fingers and toes, do the functions check, right? Elbows, and everything seemed to be intact. I was still awake. I don't know how loose it was. I'd been knocked pretty silly. And I reached up to fix my helmet, just to find that the whole thing was gone. And that's when I thought, oh man, this is bad. Um,
Yeah. And these are one of these bomb suits, right? This is the whole, I don't know what you call it. The EOD, the full bomb suit that you were in the helmet, or was this just like your helmet?
no, it wasn't in the bomb suit. I was in standard battle rattle.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
there's no bomb suit on something that had already been dismantled by the
I
robot.
understand. Okay.
So just doesn't make sense to suit up for everything on the battlefield.
Right.
What since the known problem had been diffused more or less. No reason. So yeah, I reached up to fix my helmet. Just realized the helmet was gone. Thought, oh man, this is bad.
Yeah.
My first sergeant was going to kill me for losing that thing.
That's what you're worried about. It's funny. That's the first thing our minds go to. It's like, man, my boss is really gonna be upset.
But I did realize that, of course, I had taken damage,
Yeah,
and medics grabbed me out of there. I was on a medevac chopper, head right back to Kandahar, and within 48 hours, I was at Walter Reed and Bethesda. And, it was kind of a whirlwind of stuff, all sorts of things. Yeah, the doctors
sure,
and nurses and all that. And, but finally, it, kind of calmed down. Or at night, I would, first learned that there's a sleep disorder that comes with 100% blindness because you don't reset the circadian rhythm in your head.
sure.
Uh, but I'm lay there and contemplate what happened. Why me? What if, what if there's something else? What if I'd taken a different step or done a different action? Um, and all those the doubt and anger and sadness and all that kind of stuff crept in, and um, I just it was a spiral that there's really no escape from, and there's so I had to think back to, well, I can't, who is it, Hal Elrod in
Mm-hmm.
the Miracle Morning. He said, I love it. He says, the quote he uses is, "Can't change it."
Yeah,
He gives himself 5 minutes
5 minutes.
to pity
Five.
party,
Exactly.
and yeah, and just can't change that. So what can I affect? And I thought about it too. I can't change the fact that I'm blind now. It also cracked my skull. I was leaking spinal fluid right out of my nose, but they patched that up. My eardrums have been blown out, but you do a couple surgeries and kind of self-repaired, and I could still hear at the time. But that's stuff that I can't really affect. But what I can change is how I deal with things. I can stop having that pity party, and I can start working towards being, still. I'm still a brother, a father, a son. I'm still a soldier, an EOD team leader, and there are these other warriors up and down the hallways that are going through their own battles,
Mm-hmm.
and I have so many people that I'm responsible to and for. So I don't have the benefit of just lingering in my pity party. I had to get to work. So if I'm going to be, I'm blind for the rest of my life, I'm going to be the best damn blind person I can be. Best blind damn, me I can be.
Yeah.
And that's how I got started.
And I'll tell you, Aaron, first off, thank you for sharing because that can't be easy. None of that can be easy. A lot of times I can say, yeah, I could totally relate to guests and things, but this is something that I cannot relate to. And, I just, like I said, I want to thank you for opening up and sharing that. And you brought up Hal, and Hal is a friend of the show. He's been on the show, um, and he explained that exact phenomena when he was going through all of his things, from flipping his car to being diagnosed with cancer to all the struggles that he has
Mm-hmm.
now, albeit different than the struggles that you've dealt with, but just struggles that I would say more than most people deal with in their lives at his age and that. But it was the same idea that,
Well, it brings up a great point, though,
yeah,
is that one, we never know. We never know what's going to happen. And I don't have a monopoly. Speaking of Hal and everybody else, we don't have a monopoly on pain, on
mm-hmm,
hardship, and on bad days. So who am I to say that mine's the worst and that you have no right to tell me to cheer up? Right?
yeah,
I can only have that that moment, that 5 minute rule that Hal talks about. Uh, for so long, and then I got to get to work. I got to get busy. In fact, after a while, you just get bored. So there's really no alternative except to get back, get busy, living your life.
yeah, yeah, 100%. And thinking about this, and obviously there was a huge amount of recovery, but looking at your resume here of the things that you've accomplished, it's just mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling for someone who does not have the hardships that you have. Like for me, looking at this, ultra marathon runner, no pass. Like no way. Like a whitewater kayaker, no. I've seen those things flip over. I'm good. But like for you to do all of these things, it's incredible. So I got to ask, how was it simply the urge to take action, to get up and go and get out of your pity party that spurred you towards these athletic endeavors with mountaineering and whitewater kayaking and marathoning and all of this stuff, or was it something else?
Well, it was a combination of a couple of things. For one, it was like sheer terror of being stuck on the couch, feeling sorry for myself.
Sure.
Right? I did not want to be confined by the blindness. I don't want to be defined and stuck inside my house. So I wanted to get out, and I started searching. I learned how to use accessibility devices, my phone, talking computer, that kind of stuff. And I started searching for blind, keywords like blind outdoors, blind running, blind whatever. Just get out. And a few names kept popping up, like Eric Weinmayer, who's the first blind person to climb Mount Everest. Lonnie Bedwell, another Navy veteran, who's the first blind person to kayak the entire Grand Canyon. I
Wow.
just got off the phone with him yesterday. He also just climbed Mount Everest the last week.
Wow.
Yeah. So uh, I sought these people out, and I went climbing with Eric, and I went kayaking with Lonnie, and I talked to a blind. He was still active duty, a blind ranger named Ivan Castro. And Ivan, he told me over the phone, he says, I make it a point every year to run the Air Force Marathon, the Army 10 miler, and the Marine Corps Marathon. And I thought, okay, that sounds pretty cool. I'll give that a try. And I registered for all three of those. I found a coach, of course, and she said, maybe you should try, running something local. And I've been, since my injury, I got PCS to my retirement location down near Eglin Air Force Base. So I was in the Florida Panhandle, and I signed up for the Pensacola Marathon, and somehow got roped into the San Antonio Rock and Roll Marathon. So I was registered for these 5 races, 4 marathons, and a 10 miler, all within a span of 4 months. I'd never run anything longer than a 10K in my life.
Wow.
So I just started biting off these thing bigger than you could chew, and then just started gnawing like hell. Uh, and, um, it was it was a combination, like I said, of me just trying to get out, but then also it was this learning, this transition period where people would come to me. And when I was still in the hospital, somebody came to me and said, "Hey, you want to go golfing?" I'm like, "Don't mess with me. That's blind people don't golf." Yeah, blind people golf. There's 2 blind golf associations in the U.S. Blind Golf and American Blind Golf Association, and they're serious golfers. Now, so I didn't realize that that was available. And then somebody else came to me uh, and said, "Hey, you want to go for a bike ride?" I'm like, "Okay, now you're messing with me."
Right.
No, tandem cycling, blind tandem cycling is it's a Paralympic sport. I mean, it's huge in the blind, circles. So I started cycling, and when I started, I got invited on to this climbing team with Eric Weinmayer. I had to get fit for the mountains, but it's really hard to it's really hard to find a good mountain to practice on in Florida.
In
So
Pensacola, yeah, a little bit.
so I started running and working out and climbing the tallest, the stairwells of the tallest condominium buildings around here, and that's what led into the marathons.
Wow. I mean, this is it's incredible. You have this inspirational but also insatiable thirst for life. And I think that is so admirable, and it's something that I think a lot of us take for granted. We we don't do these things because we think we can't. We talk ourselves out of these things that like you were saying, when someone comes up to you in the hospital, hey, you want to play golf? And you're like, you can't play golf. You're messing with me. Like you can't do that. And I'll be frank with you, Aaron. If someone came up to me or someone said, hey, there's a bunch of blind people playing golf, I would think, like, no, that you can't play golf blind. But when you
Well,
tell,
the thing is that we always, and I'm just as guilty as everybody else about it's like the cliche, second lease on life, and we think we have all this time, we have all the time in the world, but and things come up, but we're working, or we do the daily slog, and I don't have time for that, not yet, maybe someday. But the truth is, I almost died twice, and and I realized that I don't have time to not do that right now.
yeah,
If it's a priority, then it's got to be done.
yeah, and just signing up for it, like signing up for the races, and just doing it, and putting yourself under that pressure to do it. That's the first step. So for folks listening out there right now who are like, oh, they're trying to get into real estate investing, and I really want to get into real estate investing, or I want to do this business opportunity, I want to do this, and you're like, I'll do it next year, or I'll do it when I PCS, or I'll do it here, I'll do it there. Guys, time is our greatest commodity. I mean, Aaron just said it right there. Like, you don't have the time, you don't know what's going to happen in your life, and you don't have the time to lose to not do this. And in real estate, obviously, Aaron, I'm sure you've heard it's the best time to buy real estate is when? Yesterday. The second best time is today. So go in and do it. And whatever that first step is, if you need to educate yourself, then educate yourself. If you need to go to a networking event, then sign up for 3 or 4 networking events. You can probably find 2 or 3 a month if you're in a major metro, and just go and take action. Aaron, again, this has just been incredible. So you've accomplished so much athletically. Let's talk about the business side of things, because the athletic stuff is super cool, super admirable. Like, I know you are in significantly better shape than me. Like, definitely. So first of all, that's awesome. Like, I want to be you from like doing the whitewater kayaking and the marathoning and all of this stuff. But
Well,
I could see here that you're sorry to cut you off. I could see here that you went in and really recaptured your cooking skills in the chocolatiering, and then you started getting more into real estate. So it was the chocolatiering. Was that just a hobby, or is that a business for you?
well, it's a business. It's absolutely, but it started off as kitchen therapy. It was literally something because for almost 4 years after the blast that took my eyes, that crack in my skull that had been patched up apparently had never been fully patched. So there was a direct access through my sinuses right to my brain, and bacterial meningitis got in 2015. And I was right back in the hospital. It nearly killed me, but through the whole process, the bacteria stole what was left of my hearing. So I was left nearly deaf. I was nearly dead, but completely deaf, and also on top of totally blind. And I asked the doctor, as he's breaking the news to me, so you're telling me I'm going to be 100% blind and 100% deaf. You're saying that I'm never going to have to pretend to pay attention ever again?
That's what you said to him.
It might have been the fact that it was almost gone, but I did not hear my mom or my girlfriend at the time, my would be wife later. I didn't hear them laugh. I think it was the blindness or the deafness, but uh, but yeah, the thing was, it was like it knocked me right back down to the mat, and
Yeah.
there'll be a chance that I could hear again with the use of the cochlear implant, but it would take so long. It would take months, half a year. It was actually a full year before I could even hold a real conversation like we're having right now. But it was 6 months before I could even get any audio in. So I was sitting there at my breakfast bar again, feeling really awful, having my pity party, and totally allowed that. But again, it was one of those things. I was trapped in my body. My whole world ended at my fingertips, and I mean, it was an awful, awful feeling, and I didn't like being in that place. So I needed to do something, and I shifted my focus from me and what I'd lost onto what I could still do, and stopped asking, why, why is this happening to me, and started thinking more about what can I do instead of what I can't do, and how was this, why is this happening for me? And again, Thanksgiving was coming up, so I started cooking, and I started making all this fudge way ahead of time, and I was having fun. I was actually smiling for the first time in 6 months. Now, Michaela, my wife, started sneaking it out the front door. You don't really have to be real stealthy around a blind deaf guy, but
You just you go from one thing to the other, and you're putting the fudge on the tray, and the tray's gone. You're like, I thought I had this tray out here.
I better make some more.
I better make some more. That's right.
Time to make the donuts. But um, yeah, she was giving away. People started coming back and asking if they could buy some for a birthday party or a shower or something like that. And entrepreneur in me said, "Well, of course you may." And all of a sudden, we were selling fudge, and then we had a business. And a few years later, it was actually just maybe a year and a half later, we moved into a large uh, commercial kitchen and started making this a real thing. And we were actually generating revenue, which was really amazing. We built this business out of what was therapy for me, just to keep myself busy and make the holidays a special time. But we were generating this revenue and paying taxes on it, and all that kind of stuff. And we decided that we needed to stop working so hard in the business type thing, and wanted to start buying some assets and let the money work for us and start paying us back. And that's when we started looking to real estate. My mom and my brother had actually done a couple of flips back in my hometown of Akron, Ohio. So we started right there, and we did a couple burr projects. Our first project was a imagine blind deaf guy buying from an online auction out of state to do a burr with hard
Wow.
money.
Wow.
Uh, it turned out exactly like you would think it might. It was a disaster, but it was the we budgeted like 50K for the rehab, and that ballooned to double. And but it was also, this was 2019, 2020, and the market really helped us out there.
Yeah.
But we actually were able to cash out and get most of our equity back, pay off our private money lender, and buy a few more properties there, projects, and keep it going. So we sold that. We still have 3 properties in Ohio. 2 of them now are short-term rentals. And honey, before I die, I want to visit Akron, Ohio, is something said by no one ever.
Yeah, well, isn't there a school there? There's like Ohio University, maybe. I don't
There's
know.
Akron University. There's
There's Akron
actually,
University. Okay.
that's the thing about this, is it's like a secondary, tertiary market, but there are campuses for 12 different colleges and universities within about a 30-minute drive. There are 3 major hospitals,
Yep.
the headquarters for BF Goodrich and Firestone, because it is, at least used to be the rubber capital of the world.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and so there's a lot going on there. It's not a vacation area, but it's a traffic area.
And you could
And
tailor it to nomadic workers. You can tailor it to people, whatever. They're coming in for work. They're coming in to visit their kids at school. They're coming in to drop their kids off at school. Blah blah blah. It's a great area.
exactly. Yeah, we get parents of graduating students. We've
Hmm.
got families of patients at the hospitals. We've got traveling nurses, and we're converting one of the units from our one of the properties is a duplex. We're converting that into midterm rental right now. So we're furnishing that. So I mean, we're just taking advantage of the transient traffic in this secondary market, and it's working out great. Since then, my wife has gotten her license here in Florida, and she's doing a great job here on the 30A, Destin, Santa Rosa Beach area.
Hmm.
I partnered with one of my Navy buddies from that first deployment to Afghanistan, who's also a wounded service member, recently retired as a Master at Arms. And we find off-market deals for doing the same projects or just assigning to other investors. And we do that between Pensacola and Panama City, and everything's working out great. We're doing projects like our run around like our hair's on fire, but it's a whole bunch of fun. And at the same time, I'm raising three boys, including identical twin toddlers, because I shouldn't be the only one that's confused. And I'm training for Badwater 135, which is a 135-mile foot race across Death Valley to the Mount Whitney Basin on July 4th and 5th.
Wow. Wow. So hold on. 135 miles through Death Valley, which has its name because, I don't know, it's deadly. And you're going to run through there and you're going to end up at the base of some mountain somewhere. Is that the idea?
Yeah, 11 more miles, and you'll be at the tallest point. You go from the lowest point to the tallest point in the contiguous 48. Only they only allow so many permits to actually hike up to the top. So you go to the bottom. It's still a cumulative up and down gain of 20,000 feet just from Death Valley to the Mount Whitney Basin, like the trailhead.
Yeah. Can we do the downhill version of that? Because you're doing the uphill version. It sounds challenging. I don't know if there's enough stairs or condominiums in Florida for you to train on this. How the heck are you training for this?
No, in fact, if I'd realized what the kind of training would be, I would have said, "Nah, I'll pass." But my coach has me with a weight vest and some serious power walking on my treadmill, and
Oh, like
I
that has
hate,
inclined and you can go up, right, on the treadmill.
yeah,
Yikes.
but I hate walking. I want to stroll or run. I hate power walking. It drives me nuts. But I've been doing that for months, and that's what this race is, because there's only a couple of people that are actually going to run 135 miles. They're freaks. I am going for survival, so I'll
You're going for the finishing medal, which for
I'll
in a race like
jog.
this is crazy. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm just going to jog, walk, jog, walk, jog, walk until I get there. 3 minutes to 3 minutes, that kind of thing. Just keep going and power through it. That's it. But because there's a lot of incline, that's what I've been doing. I've been practicing what I'm going to be doing, and that's a lot of uh, walking.
Wow. Once again, Aaron, you have inspired me even just sign up for something like this. I've been telling myself I'm going to do a triathlon forever. I don't have a I have a bike, but I don't have like I hate running and swimming. I'm pretty good at, but I haven't swam in years. But like, you just got to sign up. You just got to sign up, and you got to get a coach, and you got to train. And we only have so much time on this earth, and do what you want to do while you can do it. For our listeners out there, I read a book recently called Die with Zero, and it's an incredible book that puts a really great framework on your working life, but also your retired life and what you can do. And there's a lot of great lessons in that book, but ultimately, if you think about your life and you think about keep pushing things off, like Aaron's talking about, oh, I'll do that later, I'll do that later, I'll do that later. One, obviously, you don't know what's going to happen in your life, but two, if you really want to go hang gliding in Scotland or something like that, and you keep pushing it off, and then by the time you can afford to do a trip like that, you're 75 years old. Well, guess what? You're probably not going to do hang gliding in Scotland anymore because you're 75 years old. So do what you want to do while you can do it. And I think that's incredible, and I love I love watching you do this, man. It's so inspiring. I love it. But my friend, it is time to take you into the bonus round. It's the same 4 questions we ask each and every guest. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Question number 1. What book or software is really crushing it for you lately?
My favorite book right now, and has been for a long time, is Vivid Vision. You work backwards from who you want to be and what you want to be, and where you want your life to go, and you take it down to the granular level with what does your office smell like? How do you feel? That's really important. How happy are you? How fulfilled? What are you doing that makes it like that? And then you work backwards. How do I get there? So definitely Vivid Vision.
Wow. Yeah, I'm going to have to. I've read that so long ago, but I think I'm going to have to reread that. That's probably one of those ones that you got to reread every couple of years to stay on top of your own vivid vision, right? To make sure that you're doing what you say you're going to do. Question number 2 for you, Aaron. Who's your biggest hero and why?
Why? Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well,
It's who's your biggest hero and why?
who's my biggest hero? Magnum PI.
There you go.
Actually, you know what? I've been reading a lot about the biography right now of Winston Churchill, who's an incredible person. A war hero, self-made orator. He used to stutter. And he's literally like fought people with swords. And it's just an amazing story behind that man. There's a reason there are so many quotes still repeated today because of him.
Absolutely. Question number 3 for you, Aaron. I think we covered a lot of this already, but is there something else that we didn't cover that you like to do for fun?
Everything. I'm kind of like that. The movie Yes Man. I'll try anything 3 times. I'm a voracious reader, audiobook listener. So that's kind of my thing. Whenever I'm cooking or doing anything where I don't really need to pay attention, I'm always listening to an audiobook or a great podcast like this one.
There you go. I love it. And final question for you, Aaron, for folks who are listening to this podcast and maybe they're in need of a dose of inspiration to get going after their real estate goals, get going after their business goals, or whatever goals that they have. If you had 3 nuggets of wisdom that you can condense down and share with these folks listening to this podcast right now, what would they be, my friend?
3 nuggets of wisdom. 1, of course, like we've said, get started right now. Whatever it is, take 1 step. Whatever it is, put $10 in a brand new account that is meant just for investing. Starting that business, and then make an automatic, contribution to it every week, every 2 weeks, every month, whatever it is. Make it a habit, hobby.
You got it. Hobby, habit, same thing.
All right, I'm losing my power of speech too. I'm going to be so screwed. Lean into it. There's like I've told you and probably demonstrated quite a few times, is there's going to be hardship. There's going to be, whether you choose to do it or it just gets thrust upon you. You're going to have to go through some very uncomfortable times. Might as well look forward to it. Like Ryan Holiday's "The Obstacle's the Way." look for the opportunity, the reasons to learn, and the what you can learn from it that you can pass on, and it will make everything far more worthwhile and easier to get through. And then, of course, one of the lessons from the happiness advantage is that, if you are happier about the situation, if you look for the gratitude, what to be grateful for in a situation, or simply, grateful for being in that situation because of the growth you're going to have, it is going to make it's like the fulcrum and the lever. The happier you are in any given situation, the more optimistic, the easier the situation is going to be.
Yeah. That is so true. That is so true. And just the mindset. And I find myself every morning following Hal's approach in the Miracle Morning. And I do it while I lay in bed now, and I just do my savers just right while I'm sitting there, and I'm counting my blessings. I'm figuring out what am I grateful for today. And just by starting my day in my mind off like that, and the next thing I do is I get to the gym, and I take care of all of those things. My day is fresher. I feel better. I feel happier, and because I'm happier, I I look for those gratitude moments, that just like exactly you're doing, and you're able to push out all the negativity that surrounds us. I don't know why in America or in society it's like cool to be negative, but for some reason it is, and you got to push that aside, and you got to count or what what
Yeah, you're right.
your gratitude.
It's easy to get negative, but it doesn't
Yeah,
get you anywhere, and it makes everything harder.
makes
It
everything harder.
it makes it rewrites the neural pathways in your head, and it literally makes everything you else after that harder to do. But if you have great gratitude and optimism, it makes everything a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Aaron Hale, thank you so much for coming on this podcast. You like completely jacked me up to go and run a 135-mile race through the through Death Valley. And I won't be doing that, but maybe I'll do like a sprint triathlon. uh, but dude, this has been so incredible for folks who are listening to this, and they want to get more of you, and maybe reach out and contact you. How can they do that?
Well, they can check out my podcast, Point of Impact with Aaron Hale, and the website is pointofimpactpod.com.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Listen to Aaron's podcast, and it's everything that he's doing. We didn't even touch on the fact that you're a podcaster. We glanced over that complete fact because you got so much other cool stuff going on in your life. But I love it, man. So guys, check out Aaron's podcast. Again, it's called Point of Impact with Aaron Hale, and that website was pointofimpactpod.com. So check that out. Get in touch with Aaron. Listen to Aaron. He's got such a wealth of knowledge, the perspective, and the sheer motivation and inspiration that oozes out of you, my friend, is just like incredible, incredible. So thanks again for coming on the show, man, and we will hope to have you on again in the near future.
Thanks for having me on, Kevin. It was a pleasure.